Capsimax plays a role in energy expenditure. So how does that complement exercise? And I guess what I really want to know is for people who say, I exercise and I still can't seem to lose weight, could Capsimax help that situation?
That's a question we can discuss, I think, for several hours, but let's keep it simple. If Capsimax will increase energy expenditure, which we believe it can based on some of the preliminary studies that we're aware of, in conjunction with exercise, the question becomes, will it increase energy expenditure above and beyond what regular exercise, would?
Right, and as a dieter, that's why I would want to know
Sure.
that.
So let's assume that a person exercises for 30 minutes and they expend 300 calories, which would be about normal for someone that's an average sized person that's training at a pretty high intensity or moderate intensity, roughly 100 kcals per 10 minutes, okay? Can Capsimax increase that 300 potentially to 325 or 350? And secondary to that, can it increase energy expenditure during that post-exercise period? Based on some new evidence, we know that during the post-exercise period, it seems to increase energy expenditure above and beyond what an individual would expend if they just consumed a placebo or just did exercise without the treatment.
Because can you reach like an exercise plateau where you just either change your exercise or do something different or you won't lose
Oh,
weight?
absolutely. There's no question about that. Typically, exercise physiologists would prescribe to people that they alter their program depending on their level of experience. They alter their program at least every 4 to 6 weeks. Some individuals may change programs sooner than that, but it really depends on what type of exercise they're doing. I think it's more important if they're performing resistance type exercise, weight training exercise, that they alter their protocol in terms of the exercise selection, the sets, the reps, the loading, the tempo, rest intervals, and that. And there's a strong literature on that. In terms of aerobic exercise, I think more individuals need to alter their program simply for excitement purposes. Maybe sometimes they run, sometimes they cycle, they change their intensity, to maybe they do interval training, etc. That's probably going to be key. But aside from that, if they're using a supplement like a capsaicinoid in addition, can it aid in energy expenditure?
Yes.
Some recent evidence indicates that the post-exercise period energy expenditure seems to be heightened. The during exercise period, at least in this report, there was not any statistically significant increase in expenditure, but it's possible. Remember, this is one study, and within a study, you may have 20, 25, 30 individuals where some may have responded significantly, others perhaps didn't respond significantly, and hence there was no statistically detected difference. That doesn't mean that a certain individual may not experience that. Again, this is highly individual. Some individuals may find that when they use it, they do in fact feel as though they're better off, as a result of using it. Other individuals may not. So it's something they're going to have to experiment with. In terms of individuals who say that they're exercising but they're simply not losing weight, well, we know that outside of any alteration in dietary intake, exercise in and of itself is really not an effective way to lose body weight. Because when you think about it, if an individual exercises, let's say 4 days per week, even for an hour, if they're doing an hour of fairly high intensity exercise 4 days a week, they're likely only expending maybe 500-600 calories during that bout. Over the course of 4 days, if it's 500 calories, that's 2,000 calories a week. We know, at least on paper, a pound is roughly 3,500 kcals. 2,000 calories in terms of food intake, it's really easy to, you can go out to dinner in one night and eat 2,000 calories in one sitting, no question about it. So I think people really need to focus on the combination of exercise and modifying their dietary intake in order to really see optimal results for their physique and for their body and for their genetics. Exercise alone is probably not going to get them there. It will help, no question about that, but it's probably not going to get them to where they would be if they also modify their dietary approach.
And then if they added the Capsimax, that could generate some more heat expenditure, calorie expenditure.
Based on the acute studies, it appears that is the case.
Well, that's good news.
It sure is. I mean, there's a lot of different nutraceuticals that are available. that individuals can likely experiment with. My suggestion, of course, would be to experiment with one. Don't change your exercise, change your diet, and start using a capsaicinoid and say, it works great, because we don't know if it's the capsaicinoid, the diet, or the exercise. Keep things the same and do a little experiment on yourself for a few weeks and see whether or not you notice some difference. But there are things that are available that people can experiment with. If they go again to a website like PubMed and do some searching, they'll probably find that there are other ingredients out there in addition to a capsaicinoid that may prove beneficial to them, but they need to experiment with that.
Okay, thanks for that
Sure.
advice.